You know that feeling when you peel that pristine, perfectly engineered little plastic film off a brand new smartphone?
Oh, yeah. That is like a uniquely satisfying modern feeling.
Right. It's so satisfying. Or, when you unbox a smart speaker and you plug it in and it chimes with this warm, welcoming little tone as it connects to your home Wi-Fi.
Like it's happy to see you.
Exactly. And it feels like a gift. It feels like you've just purchased this tiny, shiny piece of the future.
And it's designed exclusively to make your life, smoother.
Easier.
Completely connected. But I want you, the listener, our crucial third mind in the room today, to just hold on to that feeling for a second. That feeling of unboxing a shiny new gadget.
Keep that sense of consumer delight right at the front of your mind.
Because today we are asking a question that is, frankly, it's going to cast a very long, very dark shadow over that pristine white box.
It really is.
Here's the question we are unpacking in this deep dive. Did we actually go ahead and build the chilling, totalitarian, dystopian world of George Orwell's 1984? But, and this is the key, instead of imposing it through terror, did we just package it as a premium subscription service?
Yeah. It is a terrifying question, honestly.
Yeah, it is. And what's absolutely fascinating here is that we aren't asking this based on some fringe internet conspiracy theory.
Right. No late night Reddit threads here.
Exactly. We are asking it based on the stated goals of the actual architects of our digital world.
The people building it.
Yeah. When we look at the trajectory of technology over the next decade, there is a profound difference between a cage built of iron bars and a cage built of convenience.
Wow. Yeah.
Because the former invites rebellion, the latter, it invites you to upgrade to the premium tier.
That is such a wild way to look at it. And to figure out exactly how this cage of convenience is being constructed, we have a really fascinating stack of sources to guide us today.
Some really heavy hitters.
Definitely. First, we have a massive corporate foresight document. It's called the WPP Data 2030 report.
And we should probably get some context on who WPP actually is, right?
Yeah, please do, because they aren't just some small tech startup in a garage.
No, not at all. They are one of the world's absolute largest advertising, public relations, and communications networks. I mean, they fundamentally shape global consumer behavior.
So this document, it isn't a sci-fi novel.
Right. It's a blueprint. It's a literal corporate roadmap detailing exactly where consumer data and technology are heading by the end of this decade.
Okay, so that's our first source. Second, we are putting that corporate vision directly side by side with excerpts from George Orwell's seminal 1949 dystopian novel, 1984.
Which is just, it's mind-blowing how well they align.
It really is. And our third source provides the vital context of how these two worlds, this corporate roadmap and the dystopian fiction, how they are actually allowed to merge in reality.
Yes, the legal framework.
Right. We are looking at a critical text by Farrell Corcoran. It's titled The Democratic Deficit and the Future of European Public Media.
And this text is crucial because it highlights how deeply obscure organizations wield this immense, frankly staggering lobbying power.
To basically shape the very laws that govern our digital lives.
Exactly. They write the rules.
Right. So we aren't just looking at the tech itself. We are looking at the legal boundaries being built around it. But I want to dig straight into the WPP report first.
Let's do it.
Because, look, I have to be the pragmatist here. The practical, tangible benefits of this technology are incredible.
Oh, there's no denying that.
There are very real, very logical reasons why you and I actually buy this stuff. The technology solves massive logistical problems.
It does. But while we explore those benefits, I'm going to keep pulling us back to map these corporate predictions directly onto the psychological architecture of Orwell's Oceania.
Fair enough. You play the Orwellian skeptic.
I will gladly take that role. To understand the future, we have to look at the physical architecture being built around us today.
The actual hardware of the 2030 vision.
Yeah.
Let's unpack the hardware. Segment 1. We are moving from the theoretical to the physical reality of what the WPP report calls the Dataverse.
The Dataverse. Just the name alone sounds intense.
Right. This is the infrastructure that makes continuous ambient monitoring possible. Now, according to the report, the volume of data isn't just growing, it is set to absolutely explode.
Explode is probably an understatement.
Totally. They cite the International Data Corporation predicting that by 2025, 175 zettabytes of new data will be created annually.
And for a little context, let's look at the baseline.
Yeah, from the report, in 2018, that number was 33 zettabytes. And in 2010, just 1.2.
the scale of that is almost incomprehensible to the human mind.
I mean, what even is a zettabyte?
Well, saying a zettabyte is a trillion gigabytes doesn't really help you visualize it, right?
And not at all. It's just a lot of zeros.
Think of it this way. If 1 gigabyte is a single brick, 175 zettabytes is enough bricks to build the entire Great Wall of China, tear it down, and rebuild it every single day for the rest of your life.
Oh, wow.
And we are producing that volume of data annually.
That is a staggering analogy. That really puts it in perspective. But what the WPP report highlights as the most crucial metric, it isn't actually the sheer volume.
No, it's the frequency.
Right. By 2025, they estimate that humans will interact with data every 18 seconds.
Every 18 seconds. Let that sink in.
And we have to be clear about how that happens mechanically, you know? This isn't you, like, pulling your phone out of your pocket, unlocking it, and checking a weather app every 18 seconds.
That would be exhausting. You wouldn't get anything else done.
Exactly. The report makes it clear that this frequency is achieved through the rollout of 5G and the Internet of Things.
The IoT.
Yeah, data generation is no longer going to be manually moderated by humans. It's machines talking to machines. It's ambient computing.
Completely ambient. It's your smartwatch tracking your heart rate and broadcasting it to your health insurance app in the background.
Without you even thinking about it.
Right. It's your smart fridge recognizing you're out of milk and just automatically talking to your grocery delivery algorithm.
Or your car constantly pinging the city grid to optimize traffic flow while you drive.
Yes. And here is the picker. This is a quote from Pew Research that's featured really prominently in the WPP report.
What does it say?
They say, quote, "There is no putting the genie back in the bottle. Continuous monitoring will be the norm."
Continuous monitoring. And why do they say we'll accept that?
Because, and this is the WPP logic, people will expect it and accept it due to the immense advantages in convenience, safety, and services.
So the monitoring just fades into the background of our lives because it is so incredibly useful to us.
Exactly. And this is where I have to bring in Orwell. I want you to contrast this modern vision of continuous ambient monitoring with the telescreens in 1984.
Right. The telescreens are iconic.
Orwell describes the telescreen as an oblong metal plaque, like a dulled mirror that forms part of the wall in Winston Smith's flat.
It's just always there.
Always. And the terrifying genius of the telescreen is its mechanical function, you know. It transmits and receives simultaneously.
So it's pushing out propaganda while it watches you.
Yes. Any sound Winston makes above a very low whisper is picked up. Every movement is scrutinized by the thought police.
And the text points out he can't even turn it off, right?
He cannot. He can dim the volume of the voice babbling about pig iron production, but he can never actually shut the system down.
Never. To get just a single moment of privacy, he literally has to hide in this tiny, shallow alcove in his room.
Just to write in a paper diary.
Yeah, keeping his back turned just to write out of the visual range of the camera. The architecture of his home was designed to eliminate the private sphere entirely.
Wow.
But here is the dark irony, the massive divergence between Orwell's nightmare and our reality.
Good. Let's hear it.
In Oceania, the surveillance was state-mandated. It was a brutal imposition enforced through the sheer terror of the thought police.
Right. Winston lives in perpetual fear of a helicopter snooping into his window.
Or a hidden microphone catching a muttered word while he sleeps. But in our reality, the ultimate surveillance state is not being imposed by a dictator's decree.
No, it's being purchased.
It is being eagerly, enthusiastically purchased by consumers.
Okay, I hear that. I really do. But honestly, I think you're sort of romanticizing the concept of privacy over the reality of utility here.
Let's look at the actual mechanics of this value exchange. I mean, we aren't being forced at gunpoint to install these screens in our homes. We literally queue up overnight on city sidewalks to buy the newest smart devices. We pay thousands of dollars for them.
We fund our own surveillance.
That we get something for it. The WPP report points to incredibly practical examples of why we do this.
Like what?
Well, they mention fast food places in Seoul and Tokyo that are already using facial recognition to customize food orders.
Facial recognition for a burger.
Yeah. Mechanically, you just walk up to a kiosk, the camera maps your face, it cross-references it with your purchase history in a fraction of a second, and it immediately knows you like extra pickles and no onions.
And that's it.
Boom. Your transaction is completely frictionless. Look, that's not a state terror apparatus. That's just avoiding a bad burger and saving 3 minutes on your lunch break.
Okay, I see your point.
We are getting something of immense, tangible value in return for this data.
It is entirely true that you are getting a better, faster burger. I don't dismiss the value of that convenience. But we have to look at the macroeconomic structure you were trading for it.
What do you mean?
The advantages, as real as they act as the bait for the trap. And this brings us perfectly to Farrell Corcoran's analysis of the democratic deficit.
Oh, right, the third source.
Yeah. He points out that the regulations governing these technologies, the rules of the game dictating how that facial recognition data is stored, shared, and monetized, they aren't being written in a democratic vacuum.
Right, because you would assume, or at least hope, that if a camera is scanning my face for a burger, my elected representatives have debated and passed laws to ensure that data can't be used against me later.
That is the assumption, absolutely. But Corcoran shatters it.
How bad is it?
He details how the governance of the European Union, which is a 500 million citizen, 13 trillion euro economy, is shaped by an estimated 15,000 full-time lobbyists in Brussels.
Wait, hold on. Let's put that 15,000 number in perspective for the listener. That's roughly 20 full-time lobbyists for every single member of the European Parliament.
It is wild.
It's an absolute siege on the lawmakers.
An incredibly well-funded siege, too. Corcoran notes they represent a lobbying industry with an annual turnover close to 1 billion euros.
€1 billion just to influence the rules.
Exactly, and he specifically names global information management giants. He refers to them as deeply obscure organizations that the average public rarely hears about, yet who possess the power to steer public policy.
And who does he specifically name?
WPP, the very authors of our Data 2030 report, along with other giants like Omnicom and Interpublic.
Oh, wow. So when we walk up to that kiosk in Seoul or we download an app in Berlin and we click I agree on a terms of service banner,
yes,
we aren't interacting with a legal framework designed purely by politicians looking out for our civic rights. We are interacting with a legal framework heavily influenced and in some cases practically drafted by WPP and their peers.
Exactly. When we talk about trading privacy for convenience, we really have to realize the full scope of the transaction.
Well, way bigger than a burger.
Much bigger. We are funding our own surveillance infrastructure with our purchases, and the rules governing that infrastructure are heavily influenced by the very corporations profiting from it.
That is unsettling.
The telescreen isn't an ugly metal plaque bolted to the wall by the party anymore.
No, it's a sleek piece of glass in our pockets.
It's a biometric sensor resting against our pulse on our wrists. And soon, as the WPP report explicitly predicts, it will be augmented reality embedded in Apple's windshield.
So the surveillance isn't just ambient, it is physically immersive.
And economically inescapable.
Okay, so the glass is everywhere, the sensors are in our cars and on our wrists, and we paid for all of it. But that brings up the next crucial question.
Which is?
Who is looking through the glass? If segment 1 was about the hardware collecting the data, we need to transition to segment 2 and look at the software processing it.
The brains of the operation.
Right, because a camera is just a piece of glass and silicon until software gives it purpose. Big Brother is an algorithm.
Oh, I like how you frame that.
Thanks. So who is doing the watching, and more importantly, who is actually making the decisions based on what is seen?
The report is very clear on this.
It is. The WPP report explicitly states that by 2030, we are moving from a digital revolution to a data revolution.
What's the difference in their eyes?
They argue that up until now, data has mostly just been a recorder and an interpreter of the world. It tells us what happened.
A historical log.
Exactly. But by 2030, data shifts to being the decision maker.
This is perhaps the most profound philosophical shift in the entire document.
Tell me about it.
The report says, and I quote, "Data will define the relationships between things, places, and people, and decide much of our experience."
It moves from a passive record to an active agent. That's huge.
And mechanically, the way this happens is fascinating. The report predicts that the human-in-the-loop oversight will be completely abandoned.
Wait, explain human-in-the-loop for listener.
It's the traditional idea that a machine makes a recommendation, but a real human being ultimately reviews it and signs off before a decision is made.
And they are abandoning that. Why?
Because automated verification is vastly more cost-effective. They talk extensively about edge computing.
Edge computing, fundamentally changing how the internet works.
Right. Right now, if you ask your smart speaker a question, your voice is recorded, sent over the internet to a massive cloud server farm thousands of miles away, processed, and the answer is sent back.
There's a delay, a tiny one, but it's there.
But edge computing means the processing power happens locally, right there on the device itself, on the edge of the network.
So your autonomous car won't send data back to a central hub to ask if it should brake.
No time for that.
It processes the visual data and applies the decision instantly, locally. The machine makes the call.
And the WPP report itself, keep in mind this is a corporate marketing and foresight document, they issue a stark, almost chilling warning about this.
What do they say?
They state that this shift to data as a decision maker, entirely bypassing human oversight, will have an insidious effect on human autonomy.
Wait, they literally use the word insidious.
They do, because they understand the psychological consequences of what they're building.
That's crazy that they just admit it.
It is. Let's map that onto Orwell's Ministry of Truth, which is where Winston Smith works. In 1984, the party dictates reality.
Their foundational slogan is, who controls the past, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past.
Exactly. Winston's entire job is a mechanical process of altering reality. He sits at his desk, he receives a pneumatic tube full of slips of paper, and he rectifies historical records to match whatever the party's current political narrative requires.
Right. So if the party promised a month ago that there would be no reduction in the chocolate ration.
Yes.
But today they're actually cutting it from 30 grams to 20, Winston rewrites the old newspaper articles.
He makes it look like the party had actually predicted the cut all along.
Or even framed it as an increase from a previously lower number. And then he drops the original true document down a memory hole, an incinerator that literally destroys the past.
Now map the mechanics of the Ministry of Truth onto algorithmic curation. In the novel, the inner party member, O'Brien, tells Winston a terrifying philosophical concept about the nature of reality.
What does he?
He says, reality exists in the human mind and nowhere else. Not in the individual mind, which can make mistakes and, in any case, soon perishes. Only in the mind of the party, which is collective and immortal.
Wow.
Think about that deeply in the context of an algorithm functioning as a decision maker. If an algorithm filters your reality, curates your daily newsfeed based on engagement metrics, if it decides which job opportunities are shown to you based on predictive modeling and determines your financial creditworthiness, the algorithm functionally becomes the party.
Because it dictates the boundaries of the reality you are allowed to experience.
Precisely.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate for a second here, because I think dictating reality sounds a bit apocalyptic when applied to everyday tech.
All right, hit me.
Let's go back to the autonomous car example, using edge computing from the report. Say you were driving down a residential street. A child runs out from behind a parked car.
A terrifying scenario.
Edge computing allows the vehicle's sensors to detect the child, calculate the trajectory, and make a split-second decision to slam on the brakes, far faster than human visual processing and physical reflexes ever could.
Right.
It saves a life. Isn't outsourcing our agency to an algorithm just delegating the mundane, or in this case, the highly dangerous tasks, so humans can flourish?
That's the pitch, yeah.
I mean, we aren't losing autonomy, we're gaining safety. We don't have to focus on the bumper in front of us so we can read a book in the backseat or talk to our kids.
That is the exact compelling argument that drives mass adoption. We outsource the physical risk, but we must look at what happens when we outsource the cognitive and social risks.
What do you mean by social risks?
Let's look at the WPP report section titled Fixing the Data. The report acknowledges a major problem. Data is not perfectly objective.
Right, it's collected by humans.
It holds a mirror up to society and often reflects our historical biases. An algorithm trained on decades of biased lending data might automatically deny mortgages to minority applicants because it learned that pattern.
Yeah, the algorithm doesn't know it's being racist, it's just repeating the math it was fed.
Exactly.
And obviously nobody, not the consumer and certainly not the corporation, wants an algorithm that makes racist lending decisions or spreads dangerous medical misinformation.
Precisely. So to solve this, the report predicts that social platforms and organizations will actively tweak algorithms.
Tweak them how?
They specifically mention using tools like Google's What If to, and this is a critical phrase, data whitewash and avoid biased outcomes.
Data whitewash.
Yes. Mechanically, they will alter the parameters of the algorithm so it artificially outputs a fairer result than the raw data would naturally dictate.
And we have to look at this impartially, strictly based on the text. There's a massive vital tension here.
Huge tension.
On one hand, you have the absolute necessity of preventing societal harm. We've seen how algorithmic recommendation spirals can push users toward extreme, radicalizing content just to keep them engaged.
Right, we want to prevent that.
So tweaking the algorithm to stop that seems entirely necessary for a functioning society. But on the other hand, how it is achieved is super controversial.
Extremely.
Because if you are mechanically altering algorithms to block fake news or present a mathematically better reality, you are fundamentally engaging in a form of commercial curation of truth.
Yes, you are.
Some argue this is responsible corporate citizenship. Others argue that tweaking algorithms is essentially censorship, and they question the wisdom of allowing deeply obscure billion-euro commercial entities to hold the power to define what is true and what is false.
It's a massive philosophical dilemma, and it brings us right back to Orwell's concept of doublethink and reality control.
How does doublethink play into this?
Doublethink is the ability to hold two contradictory beliefs in one's mind simultaneously and accept both of them. It is the conscious inducement of unconsciousness.
That's a heavy concept.
It is. If the data feeding your reality is constantly being fixed or tweaked at the edge of the network to ensure a safe or unbiased outcome, reality ceases to be an objective reflection of the world.
It becomes subjective to the algorithm's programming parameters.
Yes. As Winston reflects in the novel, sanity was statistical.
Sanity was statistical. Wow.
Exactly. If the algorithm decides what the majority sees as true, then truth is whatever the algorithm outputs.
Because there's no human verifying it anymore.
Right. The loss of a human in the loop means we lose the messy, subjective, but fundamentally human grounding of reality. We exist in a curated bubble where the math dictates the morality.
Which brings us to a really uncomfortable logistical question.
Okay, what's that?
Okay, so you have the surveillance hardware in every home and every car.
Yep.
And you have the software algorithms acting as a decision maker without human oversight.
Also,
how does this system ensure the population actually obeys the decisions the algorithm makes? Because in 1984, the answer to non-compliance is violence.
It's the thought police dragging you out of bed.
Exactly. But what if you don't need a police state or torture chambers when you have perfectly calibrated economic incentives? Let's move to segment 3, the gamification of conformity.
Oh, this is where it gets really dark. This is where the physical terror of Orwell's Room 101 meets the behavioral economics of modern surveillance capitalism.
It is a stunning evolution in the mechanics of control.
The WPP report leans heavily into this, actually. They explicitly reference the academic Shoshana Zuboff and her concept of surveillance capitalism.
Let's define that for the listener really quick. Zuboff defines this as a global architecture of data capture that produces behavioral surplus.
Behavioral surplus.
Essentially, companies take the data about what you do, predict what you will do next, and then create products that actually modify your future behavior for profit.
Modify behavior for profit. Yes.
The WPP report predicts a world where people will be constantly, seamlessly encouraged to adapt their behavior to obtain rewards and discounts.
Let's look at the mechanics of their primary example for this. Vehicle telematics.
Right. So right now, your car insurance is based on actuarial tables. Broad statistical averages based on your age, zip code, and the type of car you drive.
Broad strokes.
But telematics changes the math entirely. If you allow an app to track your driving, the algorithm measures your exact speed, how hard you brake, what times of night you drive, and how sharply you take corners.
It measures everything.
And if you drive exactly as the algorithm dictates is safe, your insurance premium drops.
And the WPP report says the quiet part out loud regarding this mechanism.
They really do.
It states, and this is a direct quote from the corporate blueprint, "It is unlikely, however, that in 2030, individuals will resist or even notice a system that rewards them for conformity."
Wow. Rewards them for conformity. They also talk extensively about sharing data for the social good.
Right, the social good angle.
They point to the COVID-19 pandemic as a proof of concept, where telecom companies and Google shared population location data to track the virus spread.
Which a lot of people supported at the time.
Totally. They also mention things like the UK's National Health Service Couch to 5K app. This is an app that uses gentle notifications, progress bars, and digital badges to nudge your behavior to get you off the couch and exercising.
It's an entire ecosystem, from healthcare to auto insurance, designed to gamify good behavior.
Let's compare this evolutionary leap in behavioral control to Winston Smith's ultimate fate.
Yes, let's look at Room 101.
Because in 1984, Winston isn't nudged into conformity.
No, he is forced into it through absolute physical and psychological trauma in Room 101, deep within the Ministry of Love.
Well, brutal.
He is broken systematically. It starts with sleep deprivation and starvation. Then, O'Brien uses a dial that inflicts literal, searing physical pain, cranking it up to 35, tearing Winston's body apart.
And then the ultimate fear.
Finally, O'Brien exploits Winston's ultimate unbearable psychological fear, which for Winston happens to be rats.
Right.
Orwell's party sought power purely through suffering. O'Brien explicitly tells him, the object of torture is torture. The object of power is power. He imagines the future as a boot stamping on a human face forever.
It's purely punitive. It's coercive through immense pain and fear.
Yes, but the 2030 vision achieves the exact same endpoint: total conformity, behavioral predictability, and the eradication of deviant action through gamified rewards, financial discounts, and gentle UI nudges.
It's brilliant, really.
Why spend the resources to build a Room 101 when you can just lower someone's insurance premium for absolute obedience?
That brings up Orwell's concept of Crime Stop, doesn't it?
It does. Think about Crime Stop.
Crime Stop is one of the most chilling concepts in the book. Orwell defines it as protective stupidity.
It's the learned faculty of stopping short, almost by instinct, at the threshold of any dangerous thought.
It's internal self-censorship before a thought even fully forms.
Exactly. In 2030, you don't develop Crime Stop because you fear the thought police dragging you away in the night.
Yeah.
You develop it economically. You stop short of making a hard, aggressive lane change, not because it's inherently wrong, but because it will spike your telematics score and cost you $50 a month.
Yeah.
You stop short of reading a controversial, algorithmic flagged article because it might affect your social credit score or your professional networking profile.
Okay, but again, I have to look at the practical reality of what you're describing, and I see a lot of incredibly positive outcomes.
I know you do, but hear me out.
No, seriously. If the system nudges me to get off the couch with a 5K app, my cardiovascular health objectively improves. I live longer.
True.
If the system tracks population locations to stop a deadly global pandemic, millions of lives are saved. If people are financially incentivized by telematics to drive the speed limit and not text while driving, we have fewer catastrophic car crashes.
Nobody is arguing that fewer crashes is bad.
Right. Those are objectively mathematically good things. Why should we use a dark dystopian lens to view a system that just wants us to be healthier, safer drivers and citizens?
Because we have to ask what happens to the human soul, to human agency in that transaction.
The soul. Okay.
Let's go back to O'Brien. He tells Winston, the individual only has power insofar as he ceases to be an individual. Alone, free, the human being is always defeated.
Okay, I see where you're going.
When you gamify conformity, even for objectively good outcomes, like health or road safety, you are outsourcing your moral and behavioral compass to a corporate algorithm.
You're saying we lose the why behind our actions.
Exactly. The loss of autonomy is profound. You aren't choosing to run a 5K because of a deeply felt personal drive or a sudden realization of your own mortality. You are responding to a Pavlovian digital nudge on your wrist.
You're just chasing a digital badge.
You aren't driving safely because you respect the lives of the pedestrians around you. You're driving safely to optimize a financial metric.
Yeah, that does feel different.
When morality is replaced by mechanics, intrinsic motivation dies. Even if the cage is heavily gilded, beautifully designed, and keeps you perfectly healthy, it remains a cage.
A gilded cage.
The system fundamentally strikes at human free will, reducing the magnificent, chaotic complexity of human beings to mere data points that are endlessly optimizing for a commercial reward.
So we are optimizing ourselves out of our own humanity. We become perfectly safe, perfectly predictable cogs.
Exactly.
Which leads us to the final and perhaps the most complex part of this deep dive, segment 4, the illusion of rebellion.
Because human nature isn't totally predictable.
Right. What happens to the modern Winston Smith? What if you, the listener, wake up one day, you realize you're sitting comfortably in this gilded cage of telematics and ambient surveillance, and you decide you want to opt out?
You want your agency back.
You want to rebel. The fascinating thing is, the WPP corporate report actually anticipates this exact desire.
They see it coming.
They claim that by 2030, you, the user, will actually have more control over your data. They pitch it as a massive rebalancing of power.
But is it a genuine escape hatch or is it a trap?
To answer that, we must look very closely at the technical mechanics of this proposed control. How exactly does a user take their power back in the 2030 vision?
Let's hear the mechanics.
The report focuses on the death of the cookie. Right now, if you browse the internet, websites drop little lines of code, cookies, onto your browser.
We all know the cookie pop-ups.
Right. They silently track where you go, what you look at, and what you buy, creating a hidden profile of you that is sold to advertisers. It's a hidden extraction process.
But the WPP report says that's ending.
Yes, by 2030, the cookie will be dead. Instead, users will have what they call Self-Sovereign ID, or SSI.
And mechanically, how does Self-Sovereign ID function?
Essentially, it uses cryptography, often on a blockchain or a similar decentralized ledger, to give you a digital wallet for your identity.
So you hold it yourself.
Exactly. Instead of companies scraping your data in the background, you hold the keys. You actively manage your consent.
Give me an example.
If a service wants to know your age, you don't give them your birth date. Your SSI uses a zero-knowledge proof to just verify, yes, this person is over 18, without revealing anything else. You consciously grant access to specific pieces of your data in exchange for value-add services.
It sounds incredibly empowering.
It does, and the report notes that the new frontier of this data sharing won't just be your boring web browsing history. It will be highly intimate.
How intimate are we talking?
It will be your biometric data. Retinal scans, continuous facial recognition, vocal stress analysis, and your emotional data, meaning AI inferring your underlying moods and motivations.
That is deeply personal.
But because the old model of silent advertising extraction is dead, companies have to make money somehow. So the report predicts that paywalls will become the dominant business model for digital services.
Oh, here we go.
If you don't share data, you pay cash. If you don't have cash, you barter your data.
I have to deeply question if this entire concept of rebalancing control through self-sovereign ID is just a highly sophisticated modern iteration of doublethink.
How so? I mean, self-sovereign ID sounds like a literal rebellion against the data brokers.
It sounds like it, sure.
It sounds like taking the power back from the big tech oligarchs. If I hold the cryptographic keys to my own emotional and biometric profile, and I explicitly get to decide who sees it and who doesn't, haven't I beaten Big Brother? I am finally the master of my own data.
It is the illusion of choice, masterfully executed.
The illusion of choice. Explain that.
Let's look at the psychology of the party in 1984. O'Brien tells Winston that the party is fundamentally different from past tyrannies, like the Inquisition or the totalitarians of the 20th century.
Because they know what they're doing.
Right. Past tyrannies created martyrs, they killed their enemies in public, which only inspired more rebellion. The party doesn't do that. They absorb rebellion into the system itself.
They break them.
They capture the rebel, they break them in room 101, and they convert them before they kill them. They make the individual choose the party.
They make Winston love Big Brother.
Exactly. Now, apply that mechanism of absorbing rebellion to self-sovereign ID. Yes, you have the technical cryptographic choice to withhold your retinal scan, your emotional mapping, or your behavioral history.
I can click no.
But let's look at the economic reality. If the default business model of the internet transitions to strict paywalls and biometric data bartering, what does opting out actually mean for your daily life?
Well, you'd have to pay out of pocket for every single digital interaction.
And if you can't afford that, if you have to barter your literal biometrics just to access basic modern life.
Like what?
To log into your banking app, to access your telehealth portal, to use the social communication tools your family relies on, to apply for a job. Do you actually have a choice?
Wow.
If the infrastructure of society requires your biometric pulse to open the door, withholding consent isn't an act of rebellion?
Oh, man. I see the mechanics of the trap now. If my rebellion consists of proudly clicking no to data sharing on my self-sovereign ID wallet,
Yeah.
I am simply locked out of the digital economy entirely. I'm trapped behind an insurmountable wall of paywalls. I can't participate in society.
Precisely. You haven't rebelled. You've just exiled yourself. You become a digital unperson. You erase yourself from the modern world.
A digital unperson. That is bleak.
And we must tie this brilliantly designed trap directly back to the Farrell Corcoran text we discussed at the beginning.
About the lobbying.
Yes. These self-sovereign ID systems, these new cryptographic data frameworks, they aren't being handed down by benevolent privacy philosophers looking out for your soul.
They are being designed, standardized, and lobbied for by the very deeply obscure organizations that spend €1 billion influencing European laws.
The corporate giants write the rules of the game. They create a legal and technological system where your consent is explicitly required, but where withholding that consent makes your survival in modern society impossible. It is a perfectly closed, brilliantly engineered loop.
Okay, let's pull all of these massive concepts together. We started this deep dive by unboxing a smart device, marveling at the clean lines, the pleasant chimes, and the incredible convenience of the future.
It felt like a gift.
But over the course of the last hour, we've mapped a very different, very sobering underlying reality. We look at the Dataverse, where 175 zettabytes of data will be created annually, and where we are actively using our own hard-earned money to buy the ambient telescreens that monitor us every 18 seconds.
We are willingly trading our privacy for frictionless fast food and predictive convenience.
We examined the profound shift to software algorithms as the ultimate decision makers, bypassing human oversight entirely at the edge of the network.
We saw how the corporate need to fix biased data risks the algorithmic whitewashing of our reality, creating a digital ministry of truth that dictates our present and effectively enforces a modern doublethink.
We looked at the mechanics of the gamification of conformity. We saw how the brutal physical trauma of Orwell's Room 101 is being replaced by the soft, irresistible pressure of insurance discounts and health app nudges.
We explored the philosophical cost of trading our intrinsic free will for optimized, algorithmically approved societal outcomes.
And finally, we dismantled the illusion of rebellion. We saw how self-sovereign ID and consent management merely offer the false choice between surrendering your deepest biometric and emotional self, or facing total economic and social exile from the modern world.
You are free to choose as long as you choose to comply.
Which brings us right back to that pristine white box, that new smart device chiming warmly in your living room. George Orwell warned us of a terrifying future. He envisioned a totalitarianism of pain, terror, and state-mandated surveillance.
He saw a boot stamping on a human face forever.
But the corporate foresight of the WPP Data 2030 report paints a trap that is infinitely more effective, precisely because it doesn't require a boot. It just requires an app.
And so we leave you with this lingering, deeply uncomfortable thought to mull over as you navigate your beautifully connected home today.
If totalitarianism arrives, not with the terrifying jackboots of the thought police, not with violence and torture chambers, but with flawlessly designed user interfaces, personalized financial discounts, and a perfectly frictionless digital life.
Will anyone even want to rebel?
Thank you for bringing your mind to the table and joining us for this deep dive. Keep questioning the architecture of the world around you, especially the parts that feel the most convenient. We'll see you next time.